This is He Knows Everything, bringing you that heat far. We keeping the foot on the whoop on Knicks. We keeping the foot on the whoop on Knicks. And like the debated marriage shift that I am, I'm applying what? Unlimited pressure. Because pressure does what? It bursts its pipes. Let's talk about it, man. A lot of people, they don't give two flying fucks about Errol the True Spence. I don't even think Errol the True Spence knows that shit, but to be honest with you, I think even bigger picture, he don't give a fuck about this shit. And the reason why I say that is because if you notice, a lot of these so-called Errol the True Spence fans, they only Errol the True Spence fans because of the whole Blu-ray shit. They're not Errol the True Spence fans because they're fans of Errol the True Spence, man. Notice all of these people had the biggest criticisms to say about Errol the True Spence in the Mikey Garcia fight. They had the biggest criticisms to say about Errol the True Spence when he fought against Sean Porter. They had the biggest criticisms with Errol the True Spence against Danny Garcia. Basically, fights that Blu-ray was not the strength and conditioning coach. See, let me tell you something about fight fans. Fight fans are so dodo-headish, brain full of mushish, and brainwashish that they accept basically what we would say a one-ism mindset. They accept beta male theology. They accept beta female theology. They just basically accept anything that's beta. It is beta male and beta female theology to think that one person is the defining be-all and end-all of another person. You have to understand that when you're dealing with greatness at that level, it doesn't matter who's around that level of greatness. Greatness personification can only be hindered. The motherfucker can't be stopped. So you're not going to stop the greatness of an Errol the True Spence. What's going to stop the greatness of Errol the True Spence is two things. The drinking behaviors and the fucking Yellow Beezy connection. This has nothing to do with fucking Blu-ray. This has nothing to do with him. And I told you guys, he's a $2 rent-a-hole, $2 layaway hole. I have personally no problem with the guy. But the reason why I'm using this term, and the term is befitting for the hood niggas, for the real nigga fashions, they know exactly what I'm talking about. When you say somebody's a $2 rent-a-hole, a $2 layaway hole, that means you can put them on the shelf anytime, and then you can go back and take them away from the shelf at any given moment. Meaning they have a shelf life. Meaning they don't have to be here, or they're not going to be here forever. Now you guys know He Knows Everything. I'm Neo from the Matrix, dog. I come in the Matrix and I go out the Matrix. A lot of people don't know how to do this. They like to stay in the rabbit hole. YouTube treats a lot of people like employees. I'm not an employee, I'm an employer. So when I come into YouTube, it's because I choose to come into YouTube for that period of time. Just like when I get out of YouTube, I choose to be out of YouTube for that period of time. This weekend was all about Kobe Bryant, man. I needed my time to meditate and for me to really take in the Kobe Bryant weekend. Sorry, Tim Duncan. Sorry, Kevin Garnett. They should have done a Hall of Fame for you guys at another time, because this is really all about Kobe Bryant. That's how great Kobe Bryant was. Kobe Bryant, just like Kobe Bryant, if anybody knows me, I'm the greatest Kobe Bryant fan, just like I'm the greatest Michael Jordan fan. So when I look at Kobe Bryant, I view him as Michael Jordan. So if I'm viewing him as that, just like when Michael Jordan had his Hall of Fame speech, I didn't watch nobody else. Nobody else did it for me. I only watched Michael Jordan. Because at this level, you need greatness that supersedes your level for you to pay attention to. And that was greatness that superseded my level, so I needed to pay attention to that greatness personification, because that greatness personification can only be hindered. That motherfucker can't be stopped. It was the same thing with Kobe Bryant. But why is this all contextualizing? And how does this all fit with Errol the True Spence? Well, Roy Jones Jr. had the opportunity to have a Michael Jordan-esque and a Kobe Bryant-esque like career. And for the early parts of the 90s, the mid part of the 90s, he did. Here's the problem with Roy, man. And if fight fans are being honest with themselves, they could understand this. Roy Jones Jr. never learned defense, in so much so on how to basically move his feet when he didn't have his athleticism and his physical abilities anymore. Roy Jones Jr. was gifted with a special athleticism that money can't buy, training can't buy it. You're born with this, like Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was just born with that speed. Randy Moss was just born with those physical abilities. But of course, they have to keep putting in the work to keep those physical abilities intact. The problem is with these types of individuals, when they have gifts like this, they don't do above and beyond. They don't go extra mile to basically have that Kobe Bryant mindset, to have that Michael Jordan mindset. Because they've been given such a physical gift, they are lazy with it. Shaquille O'Neal, same thing. All of this size, all of this mass, all of this physical dominance, lazy with the shit. If Roy was smart with the physical abilities that Roy Jones Jr. had, Roy Jones Jr. would have positioned himself in so much so that Roy would have ensured that Roy Jones Jr. didn't find himself in a precarious situation. What do I mean when I say precarious situation? Okay, let He Knows Everything explain this. Roy Jones Jr. never developed kind of like what Mayweather developed. Mayweather developed an impenetrable defense. Everybody calls it the Philly shell. You know, they say Chip and Dale. Fuck that bullshit. They didn't perfect it. The reason why Mayweather says it's not the Philly shell, it's the Mayweather defense, is because Mayweather perfected it. And his boxing resume, his boxing, basically what we would say record, denotes that Floyd Mayweather basically put himself in a position to where Floyd can boast that. See, in boxing, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. The numbers have to be basically emphatically in your favor. The numbers have to denote what you are doing in the square circle. The numbers denoted that for Mayweather. That's why he created something that he knew would give him an undefeated record. It wasn't offense. You see, offense gets the glory. Dennis Rodman talked about this in basketball, but this gets contextualized in boxing. Offense gets the glory, but defense wins championships. Let me say it again, because what I said was so deep and profound. Let me let that marinate in the corpus callosum and in the cerebellum. So hear me fucking well. Offense gets the glory. I didn't say it, Dennis Rodman said it. But defense wins championships. Mayweather has been in 26 title fights. He's 26-0. Go look at all of the title fights that Roy Jones Jr. been in. Can Roy Jones Jr. say he's been undefeated? No, because Roy Jones Jr. was all about offense, which gets the glory. But remember, defense wins fucking championships. So when we look at the delineation, the distinction, the gulf, and the separation that's associated with a Roy Jones Jr. and a Floyd Mayweather, we see the caveat. Defense wins out over offense. See, a lot of fight fans are so caught up in hoopla of somebody's offensive ability and their offensive dominance. Who gives a fuck? It's about the end game. It's about the end result. People say Floyd Mayweather's style is boring. His style is a style that you can't get behind as a fight fan. Okay. But it's impenetrable. It's like a CompuBox itself. It's the actual CompuBox. It figures you out, and then after a few rounds, it breaks your rabbit ass the fuck down. Where Errol the True Spence has a Mayweather-esque impenetrable style. It's called the Ruin You style. Now, Errol the True Spence got some stumbling blocks. His first stumbling block is Yella Beezy. I've said this before. I'm the biggest Errol the True Spence fan. You ain't gonna find a bigger Errol the True Spence fan. I rock with Spence at times when nobody was rocking with Errol the True Spence. And I overflowed my damn Americano. Oh well. I'm still drinking this shit. Paid for this shit, so I'm drinking it. I rock with this motherfucker when nobody else did. But how did this all go back and contextualize to this? Fight fans are now basically super Errol the True Spence fans. All because of Blu-ray. So are they Errol the True Spence fans? Or are they a $2 rent-a-whore or $2 layaway-whore fan? Because if you're a fan of the fighter, you're not going to care what the obstacle or the circumstances is that's around. I'm talking about as it pertains to and relates to boxing. I'm not talking about that bullshit and fuck shit outside of the boxing square circle. I'm talking about what happens in the boxing ring. You're not going to care. What you're going to care about is that this fighter is still giving you dominance after dominance after dominance, regardless who's around him. There's only 2 fighters in the history of boxing that have been able to showcase this. Floyd, obviously, in his illustrious career. Roy can't say he's done that because Roy's changed people up and he's fucking lost. A lot of people could say that Roy Jones Jr. should have stayed with his dad. Roy Jones Jr. is such a lazy motherfucker that Roy Jones Jr. said his dad was too tough on him from a training aspect. So he had to fire his dad. And what happened when he fired his dad? His ability and his skill set went down. It went down the fucking gutter. And Errol the True Spence. Errol the True Spence is a coach's dream. He listens to the game plan to the fucking T. The reason why I have a problem with fight fans, especially these supposed Errol the True Spence fans, but they are fake as fuck Errol the True Spence fans, they give him more credit to Blu-ray than they are Derek James. Notice all of the titles of each and every one of their videos. I know motherfuckers was like, man, I couldn't wait for He Knows Everything to come back, dog. Because when He Knows Everything's not talking, there's a void on YouTube, man. He's the Michael Jordan. He's the Kobe Bryant. He's the Tiger Woods. He's the Tom Brady. He's the Kevin Durant. He's basically the best there is. He's the Wayne Gretzky, dog. This motherfucker's the Bo Jackson. This motherfucker is the creme de la creme of YouTube. When he's not there, the shit is all into shambles. And I'm back because I decided to get back into the Matrix. But I want to talk about this because Derek James is being disrespected by the supposed Errol the True Spence fans because they're not really Errol the True Spence fans. They're not Derek James fans. They are Blu-ray fans. I don't know what Blu-ray's done for them. I don't know if Blu-ray's paid them on the side. I don't know if they are Blu-rayologists bought and paid for. I don't fucking know. All I know is they are Blu-ray fans. They willing to criticize their own supposed fighter in Errol the True Spence because of Blu-ray. So that should tell you something. I thought there's levels to this stuff. There's gears. When people say Errol the True Spence performed badly against Shawn Porter, that's an indictment on Shawn Porter as a boxer. Shawn Porter's a top 5 fucking welterweight. What did you guys expect? You expected this fight to not be a tooth and nail? You expected that Errol the True Spence wasn't going to go toe-to-toe with a guy like that? I mean, come on. They both are aggression-style fighters. And Shawn Porter always comes to fight, ready to fight. Everyone knows it's going to be a hard-ass fucking fight fighting against Shawn Porter. And Shawn Porter trained his fucking best against Errol the True Spence because he knew he was going up against the best. But fight fans tell you Errol the True Spence didn't perform well. It's a things that make you say, It's a things that make you say, If you look at the contrary of it and see how Errol the True Spence was systematically breaking this guy down, that was a masterful performance. It was a masterclass performance to see that a fighter who takes everybody to deep waters and phone booth because he believes in the mantra of pressure does what? It bursts pipes. I'll ride a little bit on this video. But then Errol the True Spence turned around and his pressure does what? It bursts pipes. It tells you a fundamental thing. The fundamental thing it tells you is that Errol the True Spence is a fighter of epic proportion and epic magnitude. That Errol the True Spence is the rock star and the boogeyman of the welterweight division. Because when we look at Errol the True Spence, we have to ask ourselves a delineation, a distinction, a gulf, and a separation. What the fuck is that? That when it's all said and done, Spence is a fighter that fights in a very tactical aggression style. Very technical punch and placement style. Very body snatching work, the levying onslaught of the punishment style. You know why Errol the True Spence fights that way? It's because that fight style is a style that systematically breaks down the opponent. That fight style is a fight style that systematically dominates you. It's a fight style that systematically fucks your rabbit ass the fuck up. It's like Mayweather's defense. It's impenetrable. So it doesn't matter who's around you. Because Errol the True Spence don't waste no fucking punches. Just like Mayweather. Errol the True Spence throw everything with mean fucking intentions. Just like Mayweather throws everything as a comp you fucking box. Same shit. Just different strokes for different fucking folks. And Errol the True Spence is so accurate. Just like Floyd Mayweather. These are the prerequisites for guys that dominate their sport at such a prolific level. The reason why Roy Jones Jr. hates on Errol the True Spence is because he hates on the fact that Errol the True Spence, just like Floyd Mayweather, because it's the same level of hate, have perfected their style. And Roy could have perfected his style too. Roy just fired his dad. See, y'all gotta do y'all fucking homework. I'm from Florida, man. Roy's from Pensacola. Don't nobody know Florida cats better than Florida cats. We know all of Roy Jones Jr.'s fallacies. We know all of his vulnerabilities. His biggest vulnerability, if you're a fight fan, you know this shit, is when he sat there and got lazy as fuck because he didn't want his dad there. Because he knew his dad would have pushed him. That speaks volumes to the mental capacity that Roy has, as opposed to a mental capacity that Errol the True Spence has. The mental capacity that Floyd Mayweather has. You see, there's levels to this stuff. There's gears. In this video, I had to do basically what we would say a two-prong ethering and murking. The first prong of it was Roy Jones Jr. and his hatred for Errol the True Spence, because Errol the True Spence represents the opposite of what he is. Flashiness and showboatiness get your ass finally ethered and murked and done the fuck up. But if you simplify everything, you bring everything down to a simple science. There's nothing flashy about what you do. Just like Floyd, just like Errol the True Spence. But you maximize what you do and you basically turn that shit to the umpteenth power. Then what happens is you become perfect at what you do. Just like Mayweather was perfect at his defense, Errol the True Spence is perfect at his ruin you style. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat truth teller fashion. But when we sit here and look at the delineation, the distinction, the gulf, and the separation with fake as fuck Errol the True Spence fans, they are not Errol the True Spence fans. They are Blu-ray fans. Because if they were Spence fans, they'd be rocking with Errol the True Spence, whether Blu-ray was there or whether Blu-ray was not there. So what's not the cold-hearted? What's not the unadulterated? And what's not the cutthroat truth teller fashion that's associated with that? I keep the foot on the what? On the nicks. I keep the foot on the what? On the nicks. When it's all said and done, recap. You have Blu-ray, and he knows everything, calls them Blu-rayologists and not Errol the True Spence fans. And then you have Roy Jones Jr. that's hating on Errol the True Spence because it's not Errol the True Spence that he's hating. You gotta look at the bigger picture here. See, a lot of people, the bigger picture goes over their head. And the same thing with Floyd Mayweather. It's not Floyd Mayweather's hating. It's the ideals of what these fighters have been able to perfect that he couldn't perfect, that he's hating. This is He Knows Everything. Checking out.